How to apply hoof oil. Under normal conditions, a horse has a greasy coating which protects his or her hooves from the elements. However, when a horse is in an environment which is excessively wet or dry, it can develop certain problems. Hoof oil can restore your horse's hooves and keep them healthy. Method 1: Protecting hooves from excessive moisture. 1. Clean the hooves. Before applying hoof oil, the hooves will need to be clean of mud. You can brush any grime off with a moist rag or a stiff brush. If the hooves are especially dirty, wash them. Pat the hooves dry if you get them wet. Use a horse pick on the bottoms of your horse's hooves. A horse pick is a small device which can remove mud, rocks, and small objects which may have become lodged in the grooves of your horse's hoof. Check the hoof for loose horseshoes. Have your horse reshod if you see loose nails or objects lodged between the hoof and the shoe. Loose nails might also be sticking out the top of the horse's hoof. If your horse's hoof is punctured, do not pull out the sharp object. Contact your vet immediately for an evaluation. Signs of abscess, thrush, or punctures should be brought to the attention of a qualified vet. Cracks should be monitored. If they lengthen, your horse might need to see a farrier or vet. Never apply oil to a dirty hoof, this will seal in dirt. 2. Obtain a hoof oil brush. A hoof oil brush is a small brush with hard bristles. It resembles a paintbrush and is used to apply hoof oil to the hoof. You can obtain a hoof oil brush online or, possibly, at your local pet store. Some brushes come with a cover to keep the brush clean and prevent oil from dripping on other items in your horse care kit. If your brush does not come with a cover for the tip, wrap it in a clean cloth when not in use. Rinse your brush out after use. Always keep your brush and other grooming tools clean and organized. Some hoof oils come with a brush attached to the inside of the lid. These are convenient in that you do not need a brush or a pan to pour the oil into. 3. Check the care label before applying. Every hoof oil is a bit different. Some are good for horses that spend most of their time in the field and are groomed infrequently, while others are primarily for well-groomed horses that spend more time in the stable. Some are better at keeping moisture in, while others are used more often for keeping moisture out. Dressings, conditioners, and other variations of hoof oil contain different ingredients. With any hoof oil, though, ensure you are using a type which meets your specifications and always follow the directions. Consult a vet, farrier, or other expert on horses with hoof concerns. Shake the hoof oil bottle before use to ensure it is mixed evenly. 4. Apply oil to the top of the hoof. Dip your brush in the hoof oil and lift it out. Allow the brush to drip out a bit into the bottle or a small, clean pan. When the brush has slowed its dripping, begin applying the oil. Starting at the top of the hoof, where the hairline ends, move the brush across the hoof in vertical stripes. Coat the whole hoof with a thin, even coating of hoof oil. Some people who participate in horse shows like to apply horse oil to the top of the hoof just before a show in order to give the hoof a polished look. However, using hoof oil for cosmetic purposes is not recommended. 5. Apply oil to the bottom of the hoof. Your horse should be tied up, preferably in a stable. Face the opposite direction as your horse and turn slightly toward it. With the hand that is closest to the horse, lean against its flank. With your other hand, reach down and squeeze the ankle slightly. Your horse should lift its leg up. After getting the leg up, use your hoof oil brush to cover the bottom of the foot in hoof oil. Well-trained horses are quite compliant, but if your horse is not, stop applying the hoof oil and let it rest its leg before trying again. Hold your horse's foot at about the level of your knee. If you hold it too high, you'll throw the horse off balance, hold it too low, and it will make the horse think you are done, and he or she might pull away from you. Do not let the oil pool in the hoof, but ensure the entire surface of the sole is covered. Hold each hoof up for a minute or two after applying the oil to ensure it dries properly. If your horse is wearing horseshoes, cover as much of the hoof's bottom as you can with the hoof oil. Try to apply the hoof oil when your horse is getting its shoes changed to ensure complete coverage. There is no regular frequency with which you should apply hoof oil to keep your horse's hooves properly dried. Use hoof oil when you notice your horse's hooves becoming soft or spongy. Check them regularly for their texture and talk to a farrier if you have any concerns. Method 2: Protecting hooves from drying out. 1. Keep your horse's hooves clean. Keeping your horse's hooves clean is crucial if your horse's hooves are to receive hoof oil. Wipe dirt away with a rag or brush. If your horse's hooves have dirt on them, spray or wash them with water, then dry them with a rag. Use a horse pick on hooves which have mud or dirt caked on them. Call your vet immediately if you detect any nails or sharp objects stuck in your horse's feet. 2. Get a hoof oil brush. A hoof oil brush is the tool used to apply hoof oil. Before applying hoof oil, visit your local pet store to find a hoof oil brush. Don't agonize over choosing the right brush. They're all basically the same. Your hoof oil brush should remain clean. Wash the brush lightly in water and pat it dry. Hoof oil brushes are often included in the hoof oil bottle. When you lift the cap off the hoof oil bottle, you'll see a long stick-like tool with bristles on the end. This is the included hoof oil brush. 3. Read the label on the bottle before using your hoof oil. There are many types of hoof oil. Each type has specific directions and ingredients which vary slightly. Carefully selecting the hoof oil you need requires reading the directions and ingredients on your hoof oil's label. If your hoof oil is not used primarily to keep hooves moisturized, exchange it for another which is better suited to keeping hooves within their normal moisture range. Be wary of hoof oils that claim to improve circulation or help hooves grow. These effects are secondary or minimal at best. 4. Soak your horse's hooves. To soak your horse's feet, dig a small depression in your horse's stable. Place some old rugs in the depression and soak them thoroughly with plain water. Place a hanging bag or feeder in front of the horse so that it must stand in the wet depression in order to eat. Do not soak your horse's feet too often. Excessive soaking can cause your horse's hooves to become too soft. In wet climates, soak your horse's hooves for about 10-15 minutes before applying hoof oil. In dry climates, soak for about 1 hour twice each week. Experiment with your horse to find the ideal frequency for soaking. 5. Cover the top of the horse's hoof with hoof oil. Apply some hoof oil to the brush. After lifting the hoof oil brush directly out of the hoof oil, wait a few seconds before using it on your horse's hooves. This way, excess oil will drip off your brush and you will not waste it or apply it too heavily. Then, cover the tops of your horse's hooves with hoof oil. Starting from either side of the hoof, run your brush across it in straight lines. Move from the top of the hoof toward the bottom, being careful not to get any oil on the horse's hair near the ankle. For instance, you might choose to start applying the oil from the left side of your horse's hoof. Run the brush towards the right side of the hoof and stop when you reach the edge. Then, moving back to the left side of the hoof, brush a parallel row just below the first. Continue in this way, moving across and down the top of the hoof from one side to another. Reapply hoof oil to the brush as needed. When you notice your brush no longer leaves hoof oil in its wake across the hoof, you will know it is time to apply more to the brush. Your application should leave a thin, even layer of hoof oil on the surface of the hoof. Don't use hoof oil just to give your horse's hooves a shiny appearance. It should only be used when you have a problem keeping your horse's hooves moisturized properly. 6. Use hoof oil on the bottoms of your horse's hooves. With your horse safely stabled, face in the direction opposite that which your horse is facing. Rotate your body at a 45-degree angle toward your horse. Lean the hand closest to the horse against its flank. Reach down with your other hand and give the horse a gently squeeze on its ankle. Your horse will then lift its leg, allowing you to apply the hoof oil to the bottoms of the hooves. To apply the hoof oil, dip your brush in the hoof oil. Let the brush drip out a bit into the bottle of hoof oil. Then, cover the bottom of the hoof in its entirety. If your horse is shod, apply as much hoof oil as possible to the exposed surface of the hoof sole. You can start and end your application of hoof oil to the sole of the hoof from anywhere you want. For instance, you could start from the center of the hoof and work your way out, or start from the outer edges of the sole and work your way in. Keep the horse's foot at roughly knee height. Allow each hoof to dry by holding it up for a few minutes after using the hoof oil. 7. Apply hoof oil as needed. If your horse has very dry or cracked hooves, soak them and apply some hoof oil 2 to 3 times each week. When your horse's hooves improve, apply the hoof oil just once each week. Be careful not to moisturize your horse's hooves. If you notice the hoof becoming spongy or soft, reduce the frequency with which you apply hoof oil. Method 3. Deciding when to use hoof oil. 1. Only use hoof oil if your horse has a problem with its hooves. Hoof oil affects the ability of the hoof to absorb or evaporate moisture and must be used carefully. Applying it or any other compound unnecessarily can actually cause problems for your horse. 2. Use hoof oil to keep moisture in. If your horse's hooves become too dry, they might become cracked or brittle. Hoof oil can alleviate these problems. In dry conditions, soak your horse's feet and then apply a layer of hoof oil in order to help it better retain moisture. 3. Use hoof oil to keep moisture out. In wet conditions, hoof oil can help your horse's hooves stay dry and prevent them from becoming too soft. Place your horse somewhere dry, a dry stable, for instance, until the hooves are fully dried. After applying a coat of hoof oil to the dried hooves, keep your horse stabled until the oil dries too. Tips. Consult your vet if you have concerns about your horse's hooves. Remember that most horses don't need hoof oil. The best moisturizer for hooves is water. Hoof oil does not improve the quality of the existing horn. Warnings. Never apply motor oil or grease to the hooves. These contain toxic chemicals which can hurt your horse. Don't lean under or behind your horse, as you might get kicked or trampled. Ensure you are wearing heavy boots or boots with a closed toe, just in case the horse suddenly shifts or puts his foot on yours accidentally. Never apply hoof oil on dirty hooves, or it will seal in all of the dirt and grime that your horse has stepped in. Things. Hoof oil. Hoof oil brush. Horse. Stiff bristled brush. Hoof pick.